I'm summarizing functions. We have learned in earlier grades, we have learned four kinds of functions: straight lines, quadratic or parabola, reciprocal or hyperbola, or power or exponential. For example, in straight lines, we learned f of x is equal to 2x plus 3. We write function as f of x. We denote function in terms of f of x. So this is my function here, f of x is equal to 2x plus, which is a straight line. And this is a quadratic, and which will give me a parabola. And this is a reciprocal function. When I draw in the graph, I'll get a hyperbola. This is a power function because x is the exponent, and the graph that I get, I call as exponential graph. Let's look now at the straight line. Straight line we represent y is equal to mx plus c. This is how we write. Now we write a straight line. I'm going to rewrite it as y is equal to f of x is equal to mx plus c. Y is a function of x. Y is a function of x, and f of function is mx plus c. A function has variables. What are the variables here? I have variables here are my x and my y. There are two variables, x and then y. Function. What is a function now? Function, what do you mean by a function? We have not yet learned the formal definition of a function, which we will do shortly. What is a function? Function is actually a relationship between x and y. There is some relationship between x and y, and that is we call them as a function. What kind of a relation? There are so many kinds of relation, and we will see that those relations. So x, there are two variables here. X, we call them as independent variable. X is an independent variable. And y, we call them as a dependent variable. That is, we write y is a function of x. That is why I say. That means y is dependent and x is independent. A function has, as I said, variables. Now we have, we call them as parameters also. So we have two parameters here. In the case of a straight line, we call them as m and c. M is the coefficient of x. M is the coefficient of x, and c is called the constant. And we call them as parameters. The parameters m, of course, we also known as, this coefficient is also known as by gradient. And then c is known as y. Is also known as y-intercept or a constant. There are different names for m. There are different names for c, apart from coefficient parameters, depending upon the context. But now we understand that m is a gradient and c is a y-intercept.